Tonight, you'll close your window before you go to sleep. You won't think about why, you'll just do it the way you do every summer now, without questioning it, without noticing that 10 years ago you didn't need to. But the air outside isn't just uncomfortable, it's rewriting your biology in real time, quietly, 1 degree at a time. Your body was built for a narrow window of temperature, just a few degrees in either direction, and everything inside you starts to fail, slowly, long before you notice anything is wrong. You think of climate change as something happening to the planet, ice melting somewhere far away, coastlines shifting on a map you'll never visit, numbers on a graph that feel abstract, distant, someone else's problem. But the real story isn't about the planet. It's about you, your organs, your blood, your brain right now, adjusting to a world it was never designed to survive in. Let's start with your heart. Dr. Christy Eby, a climate and health researcher at the University of Washington, has spent over 2 decades studying what happens to the human body as temperatures rise. Her findings are unsettling, and they're already unfolding. When the air gets hot, your blood vessels near your skin widen. Your heart has to pump harder to push blood toward the surface, trying to release heat before your core temperature climbs too high. If you're young and healthy, this is manageable. Annoying, but manageable. Your body was designed to handle occasional heat. If you're not, if you're older or already living with a heart condition, your heart is working overtime every single day for months at a time with no real recovery period. A study published in the Lancet, led by researchers tracking heat-related mortality across dozens of countries, found that extreme heat already contributes to over 350,000 deaths a year worldwide. That number was calculated using climate data from years ago. It's already outdated. The real number today is higher. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. Heat doesn't just strain your heart, it changes your brain. Neuroscientist Dr. Kim Maidenbauer at Washington State University studies how heat exposure affects cognitive function. And her research shows something strange, something you've probably felt without naming it. On hot days, people don't just feel sluggish. Their working memory measurably declines. Reaction times slow down. Decision-making gets noticeably worse, not because you're tired in the ordinary sense, because your brain, which runs on a precise thermal balance, is spending extra energy just trying to cool itself down, energy that would otherwise go toward thinking clearly. Imagine trying to solve a difficult problem while running a marathon at the same time. That's roughly what your brain is doing every time you step outside on a scorching day and try to focus on something that matters. Now, here's where it gets stranger and more personal than you'd expect. Heat doesn't just affect your body directly, it changes what you eat, and what you eat changes you in ways that compound quietly over years. Rising carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere are altering the nutritional content of the crops the entire world depends on. A study from Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health, led by researcher Dr. Samuel Myers, found that increased atmospheric CO2 reduces the zinc, iron, and protein content of wheat, rice, and other staple grains. Your food is becoming less nutritious, not because of how it's grown or where it comes from, because of the air it's grown in, an invisible shift happening in fields you'll never see. Myers and his team estimate this change could push hundreds of millions of people into new nutrient deficiencies by the middle of this century. You won't see it happening. There's no single moment where you'll notice. You'll just feel a little more tired than you should, a little slower to heal from a small cut, a little more prone to catching whatever is going around. And your immune system, it isn't spared either. Warmer average temperatures are expanding the range of disease-carrying mosquitoes into regions that were once too cold for them to survive year-round. Diseases like dengue fever and malaria, once confined almost entirely to tropical regions, are creeping steadily toward temperate cities that have no infrastructure, no public health systems, and no cultural memory built to handle them. Your body has no evolutionary memory of these threats, no inherited defense passed down from generations who never had to face them. It's meeting them for the first time, essentially unprepared, learning as it goes. So why does all of this feel invisible? Why does it feel like nothing is happening when so much clearly is? Because your body adapts gradually, quietly. It doesn't send you a dramatic alarm the way a fever does. It just slowly recalibrates what normal feels like, shifting the baseline without asking your permission. The heat that would have hospitalized your grandparents in their prime barely registers to you now. Not because you're stronger or more resilient, because your baseline has shifted year after year and you've simply never known anything else to compare it to. This is a part that should genuinely unsettle you, more than the melting ice or the rising sea levels ever could. By 2050, researchers project that over 1 billion people could be living in conditions of extreme heat stress for significant parts of the year, conditions the human body was never built to withstand for extended periods of time. Not hypothetically, not in some distant, unimaginable future, within the lifetime of children who are alive and playing outside right now. There's a term researchers use for this, the wet bulb temperature threshold. It's the point where humidity is so high that sweat can no longer evaporate off your skin, which means your body loses its single most important cooling mechanism entirely. Past that threshold, even a perfectly healthy person, resting in the shade with unlimited water, can die from heat exposure within hours. For most of human history, this threshold barely existed anywhere on Earth. Climate scientists now project regions in South Asia, the Middle East, and parts of the American South could regularly cross it before the end of this century. There's another layer to this that almost never makes it into the headlines: sleep. Dr. Nick Obradovich, a researcher who has studied the relationship between nighttime temperature and sleep quality across millions of survey responses, found something remarkable. As nighttime temperatures rise, self-reported sleep loss rises with them, and the effect is strongest among lower income populations who are least likely to have reliable air conditioning. Your body needs to drop its core temperature by roughly 2 degrees to enter deep sleep. On a hot night, with the windows closed and the air thick and still, that drop simply doesn't happen the way it should. So you sleep less or you sleep lighter, waking up more often without fully remembering it. And poor sleep doesn't just leave you groggy. It weakens your immune response. It raises your risk of heart disease over time. It makes the next hot day even harder to push through because you're starting it already depleted. It's a loop. Heat disrupts sleep. Poor sleep weakens your body's ability to handle heat. And the cycle repeats itself night after night all summer long. Consider your skin, too, the organ you think about the least. Chronic heat exposure accelerates skin aging through a process called photoaging, worsened not just by UV radiation, but by the higher ambient temperatures that increase inflammation at the cellular level. Dermatologists are now seeing patterns of premature aging in patients decades younger than they'd expect. Then there's your kidneys, quietly filtering everything you eat and drink, working overtime in the heat to compensate for fluid loss. Researchers studying agricultural workers in Central America identified a mysterious rise in chronic kidney disease among laborers with no traditional risk factors, no diabetes, no history of hypertension. The leading theory, developed by epidemiologists including Dr. Jason Glazer, points directly to repeated severe heat stress and dehydration as the cause. It's now recognized as its own occupational illness, a disease created essentially by temperature alone. And it isn't just physical. Researchers studying the psychological effects of extreme heat have documented measurable increases in irritability, aggression, and even hospital admissions for mental health crises during prolonged heat waves. Your emotional regulation, like everything else in your body, runs on a thermal budget. When that budget is spent just trying to stay cool, there's less left over for patience, for calm, for clear-headed decisions. None of these systems fail in isolation. Your heart, your brain, your gut, your skin, your sleep, your mood, they're all connected, all drawing from the same finite pool of energy your body allocates every single day. Heat doesn't attack one organ. It taxes the entire system at once, quietly, invisibly, for months at a time. So what does all of this mean for you tonight, closing your window before bed without a second thought? It means your body is already adapting to a planet that's shifting faster than evolution can reasonably keep pace with. It means the fatigue you write off as just a bad night's sleep might actually be your cardiovascular system quietly working harder than it should, day after day. It means the food on your plate carries a little less of what your body actually needs than it did 20 years ago, even if it looks and tastes exactly the same. It means your brain, on the hottest days of the year, is measurably not performing at its best, and you've probably never once connected the dots. None of this is meant to frighten you into paralysis. It's meant to hand you something more useful: awareness. Because the same body that's quietly adjusting to a warming world is also remarkably good at responding when you give it what it actually needs: hydration, consistently, not just when you're thirsty. Rest, especially during the hottest stretches. Movement scheduled around cooler hours instead of fighting against the heat of the day. A real awareness of your own limits when the temperature climbs past what your body can comfortably handle. Small choices. But they matter more now than they ever have before, and they'll matter even more for the people who come after you. Tonight, when you close that window, you won't think about your heart working a little harder than it should, or your brain running a little slower than it could, or the wheat in your bread carrying a little less iron than it used to a generation ago. But your body will notice. It always does, even when you don't. And maybe that's the real truth hiding underneath every climate headline you've scrolled past. It was never just about the planet outside your window. It was always about the world quietly rewriting itself inside you, 1 degree, one meal, one restless night at a time.